Hello again, Oxford parents and students. My name is river.tuck and welcome to Schooling Around right here on OCTV. Thank you for tuning in, and you won't regret it. This episode, we celebrate 95 years of Oxford Public Library with a special fireside chat from Director Bryan Cloutier. You will also get a chance to see some of this year's Mr. Oxford competition. I couldn't attend the whole night, but what I did stay for will be more than enough to bring the fun right into your home. If this is your first episode of Schooling Around, then congratulations, you have stumbled upon your new definitive source of all things Oxford scholars and parents. Every week I use this show to go into the community, not just to capture our schools, but everything that our students and their families are involved with in our community. Our students do so much more outside of the work they put in the classroom, and those stories will always have a home right here on Schooling Around. To all of my bookworms, study buddies, and connoisseurs of archives, you should all send a big happy birthday card to the Oxford Public Library. Oxford Public Library hit the big 95 this month with just 5 more years to 100. There's so much more to reflect on as well as look forward to. To celebrate, Oxford Public Library hosted a very special fireside chat with guest speaker and director of the library, Bryan Cloutier. I made my trek out to the library to set up my camera and capture the chat. And I will say it was one of the most informative talks I have captured here in Oxford. I learned so much about the library and wish I could show you the entire 40-minute talk, but we only have so much time here on Schooling Around. So if you'd like the entire talk, please reach out to me at river.tuck@gmail.com, and I will be sure to get that to you. But without any further delay, Bryan will take it from here with introductions and a testament to the strength of the library's community.
I'm Bryan Cloutier. I have the honor and privilege of being the director of the Oxford Public Library, and I've served in this capacity since 2007. I have to say that in the 95 years that the Oxford Library has served this community, I am only the 5th head librarian to serve in this capacity. So that says a lot about this institution, about this community, and the people who live here. To only have 5 head librarians is quite a remarkable accomplishment for this community. And I can tell you, having the honor and privilege of serving in this capacity today, that I think there's a reason why we've only had 5 head librarians here. And that is because this community is such a great community to serve. All of you who live here and use Oxford Public Library as your library, it's truly an honor to be with you this evening and to serve you. My staff and I really enjoy hearing your stories and having you come in and join us in making the Oxford Public Library what it is today, because quite honestly, we couldn't do what we do without all of you. So thank you.
You heard it from Bryan, only 5, count them, 5 directors in 95 years of our library. You don't have to know anything about running a library to know that that is an incredible feat. The previous directors did a great job to give a foundation to Bryan to build on. But Bryan reminds us that none of that success would be possible without the hard work of the library board members that work hand in hand with the director role. Joining Bryan is one of those members, and I'll let him introduce them himself.
With me this evening, I'd like to introduce Kathy Hayfine. Kathy is the president of the board of directors of Oxford Public Library. And she was one of the hiring directors when I had the opportunity to meet with the board before coming here. And I can tell you that her colleagues on the board are remarkable people, very dedicated. And I have to say, over all of the years that I've been in the industry, that the board that I'm working with today is arguably the best board I've ever worked with in my entire career. And it, again, comes back to the accomplishments that we've been able to make here at the library, having a strong board of directors who understands the mission and the goal of the library, understands the role of the staff and what they play, understands their role as board members, and is committed to helping support that network of individuals that make this institution what it is. So, on that note, I'll give you a little, and I apologize, I don't have my glasses with me, but I'll give you a little bit of information about the Oxford Public Library. The Oxford Public Library began when Miss Nellie Slayton, so the big sign that's up on top of the fireplace behind us, on the other side of the fireplace, the Christian Slayton Library, a lot of people come in and they say, who was Christian Slayton? Well, Christian Slayton wasn't a person. It was Nellie Slayton, who passed away in 1901, gave a vacant lot on Hovey Street to the Christian Church. So Christian Slayton was not a person, but Miss Nellie Slayton was a person, and the Christian Church was the other key component to the founding of the basis.
After this, Bryan goes into detail on the vast history of the library and what each of its directors was responsible for in their tenure. This was an outstanding talk, but as I said earlier, I can only show so much of that on this episode. For the whole talk, reach out to the email on the screen right now. Bryan did talk about a lot else though, including mentioning a unique architectural feature of the building that some of you library goers might not know about.
When you make your way into this room, tonight you're not able to see it, but those of you that do come to the library on a very sunny day, typically in the summer, it's usually 1 or 2 days, we have the privilege of having a beautiful rainbow effect on the ceiling of this room. The windows that are up in the upper part of the raised roof of this building, behind the fireplace and behind us right now, those windows have a special film on them. We're one of 2 libraries in the state of Michigan that have this feature. The other is the main branch of the Kalamazoo Public Library in Kalamazoo, Michigan. David Milling designed both. And the windows here in the main rotunda of their main building and their main branch in downtown Kalamazoo have the same feature. And it is a glaze on the windows that provides for a beautiful rainbow effect when you come into this room on a sunny day. It is, if you've not seen it, it really is quite an amazing thing. It's very beautiful sight. So we are very privileged, I think, to have such a beautiful building to come to work in and to enjoy on a day-to-day basis here.
I cannot wait until a sunny day comes around so I can go see that rainbow for myself. There was a lot of thought put into the structure of what our library is today. That forward thinking, Bryan says, led to a building that many would not believe is as old as it is. He then went on to demonstrate that forward thinking by sharing what the board as well as himself have come up with for what the next 95 years looks like. Bryan shared a few of those ideas, and I think you will be just as excited as me when you hear. Take a look.
The next 95 years of Oxford Public Library and where the future is going to take us. It's very exciting. My staff and the board and I have, of course, been over the last year sitting down with that architect that I named earlier, Mr. Penchensky, who is now a principal at Daniels and Zermatt in Ann Arbor. And Seth, in his history and knowledge of our building, sat down with us, and we started to, using the data that we collected from our Strategic Plan 2020, started to lay out the future of the Oxford Public Library. We have learned a couple of things over the years. One is that our children's department for a community of our size is way too small for the types of things that we do here at the library today. The library itself functions significantly different today than it did 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or let alone 95 years ago. And so, in working with our architect, we have designed an addition to our children's department, but we were also given the task of looking at the pre-existing footprint of this building, looking at the existing envelope, and seeing how we could better utilize that envelope to serve the public and to bring the future vision into play. And so as part of that process, we have decided that we would switch where our circulation area workroom is, which for those of you that are unfamiliar with where that might be, that's the area behind where you check out your library books, with the actual physical space of our children's department in the library. We're going to swap those 2 spaces, and we're going to bump out the current circulation room and make that the new children's department. And you might say, why would you do something like that? Why don't you just bump out the children's room? Well, there's a couple reasons why we don't. One is we have a beautiful garden in the middle of that room that we didn't want to disturb. And that is the Florence Oberg, another longstanding member of this community and was a member of the board of directors here, and one of our endowments named after. We have that garden in the middle of the children's room. So logically, and likewise, we also were dealing with a transformer, an electrical transformer that is right outside that room. So it made logical sense for us to swap those two spaces, and we're going to push out the circulation area now and make that the new children's room. Reconfigure the off-desk space for where the children's room is today to become the new executive board room, which will be more publicly accessible to the public, but it will also allow the public to use that room when the board or the staff isn't using that room. So we could open that up to small board meeting for the board meetings for the community. The other component we're looking at is off the back of this room here, pushing out another addition and adding additional quiet study rooms. We have 2 quiet study rooms now. I think the proposed plan is to have a net of 3 or 4 additional quiet study rooms, another small boardroom, additional public restrooms, and a dedicated local history room with its own archives, so that we can maintain Oxford history moving forward into the future. So that plan, which will be brought to you most likely in August, at the August election, will have a bond to support the future expansion of the public library. So we're meeting with our board, Kathy and her colleagues, and I will be meeting with our architect and bond counsel at an upcoming meeting to finalize all of the budgets for that. And as soon as we have all of those budgets finalized, we'll be bringing that proposal forward to all of you to take into consideration in August. So Oxford Public Library has a very bright future ahead of it. And I'm looking forward to, with your help, taking that vision and making it part of the next 95 years of Oxford Public Library. So, anything you would like to add to this? Very good. So thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions for Bryan before we start our meeting?
Well, maybe you could mention that the bond that we had for this building is paid off.
Yes, that's a good point to make. So if you were wondering, this building is paid off. It's been paid off for, I want to say, probably 3 years maybe now. So we don't have any bond debt on this building. We own this building free and clear. So the only debt that we would have moving forward for the library would be a future bond to support the addition and the renovation of this building.
That was all from Bryan, but then the floor was open to questions. One attendee wanted to know more about the recent incredible undertaking by the library. I won't spoil it. Listen for yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. One of the things that you may have read about most recently is that one of the major tasks that my staff and I took on in this past year was digitizing the Oxford Leader, the historical Oxford Leader. And so we met with folks at the Clark Historical Library at Central Michigan University, and we also met with the publisher of the Oxford Leader, Mr. Sherman, and we came to an agreement that would allow us to take back to I think it's like 1892, but don't quote me on that date. It's early or late 1890s, let's just put it there, or early late 1890s. We were able to digitize that archive of paper from the 1890s to 2014. And we're working with the Oxford Leader moving forward to digitize from 2014 to probably like 17 or 18, because obviously the paper has sole proprietorship over their most recent edition, and we don't want to compete with that. That's not our objective. But we do want to make sure that we're archiving the Oxford Leader for the whole span of it. And one of the really very cool elements to that is that we had many people that came forward and helped us with that project. The Historical Society, we could not have done that without, first of all, Mr. Sherman allowing us to do that. That was one component. We're grateful for his commitment to allowing us to digitize the paper at that capacity. The other component is the local Historical Society, in joining with us, gave us the opportunity through funding to offset the cost of that, because it was a $75,000 project. The initial project was $75,000. And it's a couple of $1,000s on an annual basis to move us forward. And we've made the commitment, the Oxford Public Library and my board made the commitment to do that. Regardless of outside funds, we felt it was that important to do that. And we set the money aside to do that. I can tell you that we've cut that, I'm going to call it a tax burden, although it wasn't necessarily a tax burden, to cut the expense on the taxpayer in half. And so the Historical Society and other contributors came forward and allowed us to cut that cost in half. And the really cool element about it as well is that as a librarian, our objective was to make sure that we didn't just digitize it, but we indexed it. Because let's face it, these papers aren't any good if we can't actually use them to conduct research, right? And so just the other day, I was helping a patron find an article on their family. And what would have taken us weeks, if not months, to locate in paper copies of the Oxford Leader, I found in less than 5 minutes. It's mind-blowing what we're able to do. And it's digitized. It's part of the digital archive now forever. It was a major project for us, a huge accomplishment, something that an archivist that used to be on our team helped nudge us in the right direction to get that, to make that project a reality. And so if you haven't visited the Clark's digital newspaper collection yet, you need to, because it's all there. And the Clark later shared with us that it's the largest continual span of Michigan papers that they've ever digitized. And it's our collection right here at the Oxford Public Library. Any other questions? Again, thank you for coming here and supporting the Friends of the Library this evening. Thank you for your support of the Oxford Public Library.
Thank you to the Oxford Public Library for allowing me to attend the fireside chat, and also thank you to Bryan Cloutier for the outstanding talk he gave on the library. I hope you are all now just as excited as me for the future of the library. Again, if you want to see that full talk, reach out to me at river.tuck@gmail.com. Now it's time to shift gears back into the schools, the Performing Arts Center to be specific. I was sat atop the balcony seating to capture a performance last week, and it featured our very own Oxford boys competing to be crowned Mr. Oxford. If you don't know, Mr. Oxford is a competition run every Spirit Week at the high school to raise money for charity. The boys and girls involved compete in different competitions in the schools throughout the week to raise money. And it all comes together at the end of the week at the PAC, with the boys on the stage displaying talents and other skills to the eyes and the ears of their friends, families, and judges. It was an event as silly as it was great. I enjoyed it very much, and I hope you'll enjoy it too.
And I'm Lauren, and we want to thank you all for coming tonight. All the proceeds to this event will be donated to charity.
The charity we are donating to this year is Kids Beating Cancer, and the boys already raised $2,641.
Thank you for the introduction, girls. After this, the boys take the stage as well as the judges to introduce themselves. But for time's sake, let's skip right to the talents. For you now is an amalgamation of just a few of the many talents on display that night.
with me happens all the time. It's a quarter after one. I'm alone and I need you now. Said if you come, lost all control and I need you now. And I don't know how to do it now. I just need you now. Listen. Look. Listen. One of these days I'm gonna blow up. Got none on me. Hey, when I'm on stage, haters gonna show up. Got none on me, got none on me. Yeah, I'm gonna go big. Got none on me, got none on me. Yeah, I'm gonna go big. Got none on me. Hey, one of these days I'm gonna blow up. Got none on me. Hey, when I'm on stage, haters gonna show up. Ain't got none on me, got none on me. Yeah, I'm gonna go big. Got none on me, got none on me. Yeah, I'm gonna go big. Got none on me. Hey, I hate every day, I think I'm away, I'm out. I'm taking the plane, I'm taking the place and out. But that's the name, I'm on stage, I'm loud. We got the name, I'm trying to play us out. It's your XL, never expel. Say my name, don't ever get a misspell. Better get it right, I'm gonna take a blood cell. Trying to get finished in a nutshell. Just my genesis, I'm aware the exodus. Just the beginning, I lit it up like I'm medicine. And still in the process of developing. Go hard and quit is the element. Finna get recorded in a minute. I'm not leaving till I get the album finished. I'm not seeing participant competition. I got Jesus, which means I'm already winning. Never took me seriously, I get curiously thinking they take me hilariously, continuously, never give me the props that I need. Then they'll be in my seat screaming and cheering in front of my feet, then traveling on my bus. I haven't been here in a month. At the town where I grew up, at the show they all show me love. My old haters in the front, remember me from school? I'm your first fan, security. That boy drunk, one of these days I'm gonna blow up. Got none on me, hey, when I'm on stage, haters gonna show up. Got none on me, got none on me. Yeah, I'm about to go big. Got none on me, got none on me. Yeah, I'm about to go big. Got none on me, hey, one of these days I'm gonna blow up. Got none on me, hey, when I'm on stage, haters gonna show up. Ain't got none on me, got none on me. Yeah, I'm about to go big. Got none on me, got none on me. Yeah, I'm about to go big. Got none on me. Hey, the present time don't be recognized for the sacrifice I put in the time. The media is pluralized, they amplifies, who is customized. One day they will realize that one day I will be on the rise and maximize my profit size and advertise my merchandise. That I never really get it because I never get the credit that I deserve every second. I just feel hard headed, but it's something that there's that I give for the t-shirt. Return with the energy and reverse. Yes sir, I made it. Yes sir, I made it. One of these days, I'm about to blow up, I made it. Yes sir, I made it. Everybody trying to hop on the bus, that is the plug, I got ready left. Ain't no way I'm going back, ain't no time to confess. People be asking why I left it all, is it all for a check? I'm trying to use what I'm blessed, I'm trying to use what I'm blessed. All that I want is respect, yeah, I give my best, blessed.
Next up, we have Logan Nix, and he will also be rapping.
Alright, stop, collaborate and listen. I select with the brand new mission. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up the stage. mother.
Back. I hope you enjoyed that longer clip of all of the boys' talents. There were so many more on display and for a great cause. School spirit like this is what makes Oxford so unique. I look forward to covering all of the unique talents on display throughout Oxford in the near future. Tune in next time to see more of your Oxford schools right here on OCTV. As always, be sure to check out our YouTube and Facebook pages under Oxford Community Television. Those have all of our videos on there for you to go back and rewatch as much as you want, and I hope you do. Anyways, that's going to do it for me. I'm River Tuck for your school news and schooling around here on OCTV. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, Oxford.
What?